Earlier, I had the chance to talk to writer and photographer Chris Arnade about his travels across our nation, documenting those forgotten men and women who've been left behind by the coastal elites. Take a look. So, Chris, this book you've written, Dignity, I want to make sure everyone needs to understand Dignity. This is the subtitle, Seeking Respect in Back Row America. We're going to get into that. But I just want everyone to see this book. And those of you who are watching, you're all going to enjoy this book if you buy it and read it, but I'm speaking particularly to anyone in a position of power or authority in government at the federal level or at any level. You really need to read this book. It's incredibly powerful. And we're not going to have time, Chris, to get into all of the important insights in here, but let's just start with the big picture. Right. You talk about, as in the subtitle, the back row America. You make this distinction between front row America and back row America. Just explain that for us.
And real quickly, front row is highly educated elites, people who've generally gone to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Cornell, got postgraduate degrees, and then after that work through and live in neighborhoods that are basically filled with people like themselves.
So when we talk about, in just terms of mapping that onto the conversation we have on this show and elsewhere, when we talk about the elites, that's really the front row?
That's correct.
Okay. People in power, people who are in power in government and the economy and so on. Okay.
In a simple nutshell, think bankers and politicians and the donors who support those politicians.
Great. Now let's look at the back row part of it, because that, what's really striking to me reading this book is just the real depth of the problems that people in America today suffer. And we talk about that a lot. On this show, we talk about working Americans, or we talk about the working poor, people who are working hard and so on. When you talk about back row, does that map onto that, or are you talking about an even more suffering group of the population than the working class or the working poor?
I would call it the working poor, but in general, it's somebody who has finished high school, probably, but not much beyond that. If they went to an education, it was probably community college, trade school. So think working poor. But again, I think the big difference is what defines people is class certainly defines people, but education, so much about how we think and our morality and the way, just at the very core of everything is how educated you are.
Right. There's an image, a kind of structure, really, a conceptual structure that haunted me as I was reading this book, because it occurred time and time again in the places across the country you visited. And it's this notion of the elites, the front row people, designing an economic system that made corporations bigger and bigger, more globalized. The impact of that was that in small towns and medium-sized towns across America, the places you visited, the big employers would leave, the factories would leave and so on. And that led to this general collapse of the community and the physical infrastructure in the place. And then, at the same time, the impact of that for the people who designed those changes was to make them richer and to make their communities thrive. Correct. With the artisan shops and all the rest of it, while the people who had to suffer those policies end up with just sort of desolate communities and big box retailers. Just describe some of the places you went where you really saw that.
It's all across America. It's not geographically bound. It's in the Northeast. I always say you don't have to get out of the Acela corridor. Get off the Acela. The Acela goes through these neighborhoods.
Right.
And but it's Gary, Indiana. It's
Let's talk about Gary. That was really powerful. Just describe that for a bit. What you saw there.
It's a working class African American town that lost its steel mills. It's 1/3 of the city is boarded up, 1/4 of the city. Now, I don't want to pick on Gary because the residents that are still there are wonderful people and they're doing their best. And that's why I try to get across in this book is don't blame the residents who are in these towns. Don't stigmatize the residents for the problems that happen in these towns. But Gary, there were times where I would walk in Gary and I didn't see anybody. I just saw boarded up houses, and I didn't even see. I'm used to being in neighborhoods with boarded up houses, but often there are people living in the boarded up houses. And in Gary, there weren't even people living in the boarded up houses. There were just empty plots of land.
And downtown, Gary, you were describing that.
It's on Saturday or Sunday, the churches are open, and so the mosques and churches are open, and so it adds some energy. But otherwise, it's generally a bunch of attempts to revitalize Gary that have failed. So there's an old convention center there that doesn't get many conventions. But there's the usual liquor store, the vape stores, and then there's McDonald's. And one of the things, you talked about, we elites design these towns and make a lot of money off it. We design this economy that is all about big box stores. Mm-hmm. But the irony, the even worse thing is we don't use them.
Right.
And then we make fun of the people who use them. Right. So if you go into Gary, people use the McDonald's as their community center because it's the one thing that is there and open and always working. And so we elites build this economy that fills Gary and other towns, Bakersfield, El Paso, Portsmouth, Reno, Lewiston, Maine. It fills them with these big box stores. But then we laugh at the people who use the big box stores as somehow beneath, somehow lacking. And
the McDonald's point, which is so powerful in your book, you say, I think one of the chapters is called, if you want to understand America, go to McDonald's. Right. Funnily enough, that really resonates with me. I love McDonald's. I go almost every week to McDonald's. And one of the things that really struck me about President Trump, then candidate Donald Trump, one of the reasons they made fun of him was that he likes McDonald's. And I remember thinking, yeah, but that's a connection with Americans that the elites just don't understand. The fact that he's not embarrassed to say, I like McDonald's. And the bigger point from this, I think, is that it seems to me that what comes straight out of your book is that, these days we're not allowed to be prejudiced about anything, quite rightly. Prejudice is bad, bigotry is bad. You can't be prejudiced on racial grounds or any other grounds, except class, where it seems to be perfectly acceptable to look down your nose at working Americans and the people you met doing your book.
Right, you could make fun of the poor, basically. And you do it these days by making fun of their choices.
I said to you before we started this, there's no way we're going to have time to get into everything. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. There's so many rich insights here. It's just an incredibly important book. I'm going to say it again. Please, if you are anything to do with anything that affects policy, read this book. Chris, you say very clearly you're not a policy guy. It's not got a list of recommendations at the end. That's one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show. And there's a whole host of things that I want to follow up on from this incredible book. But for now, Chris Arnade, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's talk about a bit of that. Katrina, that guy, no Trump supporter, used to work on Wall Street, thought of himself as a Democrat. But what he discovered there was something that President Trump, Donald Trump, candidate Trump, understood and felt, that these policies that the elite have designed have ripped the heart out of community after community across the heartland of America. And President Trump spoke to that, and he understood that manufacturing was really a big part of this.
It was a huge part of it, and my heart goes out to communities like that, like Gary, Indiana, happens to be Lake County, happens to be blue, all in control of Democrats.
Yeah.
At some point, we have to look at these communities and teach them that they themselves are accountable. Because when you constantly elect, as President Trump famously said in 2016, what do you have to lose?
Right.
He has told these communities, you have voted for Democrats for nearly 40 years. And their communities have just gone further down the drain. We have an opportunity now with Donald Trump to fix all of that. If they come to the table, there are opportunity zones out there. There's Ivanka Trump's workforce initiative. There are so many resources available made by President Trump to turn back the time, in a sense, of making Gary, Indiana great again. The question is, are the people of Gary, Indiana going to finally vote Republican so that their lives can finally change?
Well, one of the things I found, on the campaign, I'm sure you did, is remember Barack Obama a month before the election said, Trump will never bring these shots
That's
back.
right.
Remember,
Well, he's got a magic wand.
Exactly. Right? Well, maybe the president does have a magic wand, because now you go to these towns and you do see a lot of these jobs actually coming back. That's one of the things that heartens me the most. And again, you mentioned manufacturing jobs that are back. What about construction? I mean, I travel everywhere from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine in this country. All you see in cities now and towns, buildings being erected, apartment buildings, factories. We're building things in America again. It's a nice thing to see. And those were the jobs and remember Hillary Clinton, she went to these towns in West Virginia and Pennsylvania and said, oh, the coal jobs are never coming back. We're just going to destroy every coal job. She didn't care about those workers, and Trump did. He said, no, I'm coming to help save your jobs.
And the energy revolution that he's unleashed is a big part of it, isn't it?
You can't even understand the American economy over the last 10 years if you don't understand the shale oil and gas revolution. And when you've got Democrats, right, Christina, talking about the Green New Deal, we're going to wipe out all the oil jobs, the coal jobs, the natural gas jobs, the car jobs.
By the way, it's amazing the Green New Deal, because you think it was crazy the first time, and then Bernie Sanders the other week published something that was sort of even worse, even more loony.
It gets more and more loony as we go down this path, so I'm sure the next year is going to be hilarious. But that's the difference between the elitists, the globalists, the ones that I say, the Ivy Leaguers and the suits and geniuses that have run the country into the ground, versus a President Trump, versus an Ivanka Trump. People who just say, let's take a step back, figure out what's wrong, and just fix it. And you can only fix that by doing common sense things like investing in your people, like opening up resources, making things accessible. And that's what this administration is doing.